Hey, Craftinistas, welcome back to my channel and another episode of Craftinista Sundays. I'd like to invite you to like and subscribe to my channel and then connect with me on social media. You can find me on Instagram at Rickeysha Craftinista, and I'd love for you to join my Facebook group called Crafters Plus Creators. Remember, like and subscribe, and then leave your suggestions for future tutorials in the comments.
All right, so good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Craftinista Sundays. This Sunday, we're going to work on my favorite craft, which was the thing that got me addicted to crafting, and that is jewelry. And so in today's class, we're going to learn different techniques for making different types of beaded bracelets. So hold on. All right, so if you're just joining us, don't worry, you haven't missed much. I was just going over the materials and just recapping what we're going to make today. And I'm going to show y'all how to make different types of beaded bracelets for Craftinista Sundays. And jewelry was the first thing that got me to really believe that I am a creative person, and it was kind of my gateway to really and truly, it was my gateway to crafting. And so I'm really excited to be able to share this with y'all. So I want to just show y'all the different types of beaded bracelets that you can make, and then I'll get started to show y'all which one I'm going to make today. So to get started, you can just do like the really basic ones that look like this. And it's just the bead and the spacer beads. The spacer beads of this hematite bead right here. And it's really simple. And so this is one of the more basic types of beaded bracelets. And then you can, of course, make it a little bit more complicated by adding a focal bead, which is what I did here. Same hematite spacer beads. And this is made with a semi-precious bead, which I'm actually drawing a blank on what it is now. But the beads like this make it easier to play and to win the game that I like to call hide your knot. And so if you have a bead with a larger hole like this one, then it's easier for you to hide the knot. So then it makes it more difficult for someone to figure out where the bracelet starts and stops. And so you can get a little bit more complicated, a little bit more complex if you add a focal bead. Same thing with something like this, where it really just depends on the bead that you want, the bead type that you want to use. Like I did this one with the mixed beads, so I have the smooth amethyst, and then I have the actual like rocks. And so I just mixed it up a little bit, and then I added the little bling there. And then it really just depends on your style. That's what I love about jewelry the most, is you can really make it what you want. And so, and if you're looking for different ways, I'm gonna grab this bracelet. If you're looking for different ways to like stand out and to find stuff that you wouldn't necessarily find, I'll just grab this. If you're looking for ways to find stuff that you wouldn't necessarily just be able to go to a store and get, then making your own is always a great option. And if you're looking for, you know, where you can find your beads, I get my beads from everywhere, from Michael's to Hobby Lobby to Etsy. And even I've gotten some beads from Amazon before. And I think for me, I've learned to kind of think outside of the box too when I'm looking for beads. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a bead per se when I'm thinking about making a bracelet. So for example, for this set, I made it like this with these two, it's two different bracelets. And I made it with this set, but it started out as this necklace piece. And all I did to make this was I just broke the necklace piece into two. So sometimes you just kind of have to think outside the box when you're looking for your supplies. And so yeah, I just wanted to show y'all that. So in terms of the supplies that I'm going to use today, I'm going to use some stretchy string. And the size of the string, it varies. And the size that you use would depend on the size of the beads that you're going to use. So for example, if you're going to use smaller beads with a smaller hole, then of course you'll need a string that has a skinnier width. Today, my preferred width is 0.7, and this is the string that I prefer. It's the Stretch Magic. You can really find it anywhere, even at Walmart. I will rarely buy it at Walmart because if you get it at a craft store, you can use a coupon. And so this is the one that I'm going to use today. It's the 0.7 millimeters, but it also comes in a smaller size. The 0.5 millimeters look like this. I usually use this for sizes for my daughter, since the beads for her are usually a bit smaller than the beads that I use for myself. And you can also get the same width, and this, I think this is the one that comes from Walmart. Same difference, just a different brand. Like the packaging and everything is pretty much the same. The sticker is just a little bit different. You may also choose to use elastic cord, and this is the Bead Landing brand. Now for the elastic cord, I typically use this for infant necklaces, like the infant beaded necklaces, since it's more stretchy, and it has like a little fabric on the outside, so it has like a little protection. And yeah, so that's the different types of string. And then I'm going to use jewelry tools. These are mine. These are my set of Old Faithful tools. This one cuts. This one I use to flatten crimp beads, and this one I use to round and shape my project. And then the next thing I'm going to use, I'm going to have some of my beads, and so I'm going to show y'all how to make 3 different types today. It's only because it's real quick. So we'll learn the basic kind like this, where it's just a basic bracelet. And I hate to call it basic, but it's like, you know, the building block of everything else. And you can use that to make something like this and just add a charm. So we'll learn the basic style, and then we'll also learn how to make a bracelet with this kind of style, which has the focal plate in the middle. And so for this, you'll need your string, you'll need your beads, you'll need your plate, and then an additional supply, which I had on the list, is a crimp bead. And that's this little bead right there. That little gold piece right there, that's the crimp bead. So if you want to make something like this, you'll need an additional supply, which is the crimp bead. And we're going to learn how to make this today as well. And I think that's it. If we have more time, then I'll show y'all something else, but that's pretty much it. So I'll get started on the basic one. Now, as far as the sizing goes, if you're gonna make it for yourself, it's easier, and you just kind of measure your wrist, and you can just, you know, take it around your wrist like this. And I realize this is clear string, so y'all probably can't see it, but you can just kind of measure it around your wrist. Give yourself some space because you're going to have to tie it at the end. If you're making it for someone else, I make mine for myself, since I'm petite. Mine are usually about 7.5 for my wrist. The average woman, I'll make it from 7 to about 8. And then for men, I'll start theirs at about 8. And then depending on how big they are, like I used to have some football players that I made bracelets for, and of course they're huge, and so I would make their bracelets about 8.5, anywhere from 8.5 to 9.5. Really, it just really depended on how huge they were. And I'm really good at looking at people's sizes. I used to work retail, and so I had to guess sizes a lot. So if someone told me that they were not the average size, I would just ask them to send me a picture of their wrist so I could guess. So then to get started on the basic one, you'll just need your string, your beads, and then your bead stopper. So for your bead stopper, and I got mine from Amazon, it looks like this. It's this little handy tool, and it has 2 little ends, and essentially you would just insert your elastic here when you flex it out. So you use the 2 ends here, you pull the 2 ends, and then when you pull it, you can insert the string here, which will keep your beads from falling off. Now, when I first started, I was super bootleg, and I just used this. It's a key ring. It works the same way, I promise. So if you don't want to get super fancy, you don't have to. I need to like move this mic out of my way. I'm sorry, y'all. So if you don't want to be super fancy, that's okay. So I used to use the key ring the same way. Granted, it ruined a whole lot more manicures, but essentially all you do is you open up the key ring a little bit, and then you insert your string. Now it's obviously a little bit, it's bulkier than this more convenient bead stopper, but it does the same job, which is it stops your beads from coming off. And then what you'll also need is your bead board. Now again, this is about your personal preference. If you just want to kind of work it in your lap, that's totally fine. But for me, the bead board is just something that's more convenient, and it makes it easier to see how my project is going to go, especially when I'm doing something that I want to have like a certain kind of balance or a certain look. I can kind of set it out on my bead board first, and then I can take a look at it that way to see how it looks before I actually string the beads on. So I'm going to show y'all my bead board, and the first one I'm going to make, I'm going to work with some tiger eye. I'm really into like semi-precious and jewelry that has metaphysical qualities. And so when I first started, I used to make a whole lot of statement jewelry, but now the majority of my jewelry has like metaphysical qualities. So, all right, I'm gonna adjust this so y'all can see my board. All right, so can y'all see that? So I'm gonna start with some tiger eye, and I got this from Michael's. This is amber tiger eye, and I'm gonna use 3 different sizes for this. I think I have 3 different ones. Let me double check. Yeah, so I have 3 different sizes for this. The bigger size is a size 10 millimeter, and it looks like this. And the medium size looks like this. And by the way, I think Michael's had a sale on their beaded and on their strung beads. This is the 8 millimeter size. And then the smaller size that I'm going to use, I think this is 6 millimeters. Yeah, this is 6 millimeters. So for mine, and eventually I'm gonna make like a stackable set. So for this one, I want to have it to where the where it's like a pattern of the beads getting larger as you get to the middle, and then they'll just kind of repeat the same pattern on the other side. And so what I'll do is I'll take my cutter tool, cut these out, and then I love these little storage places too, because it makes it easier to hold on to the beads. So I'll move this out of the way, and then I'll open up the larger size one, put this in one of the slots. And I don't think I'll use too many of these, but I'll just open them anyway, since I do keep my beads organized by the type. I have one storage unit for just like beads, and then I have another one that's sorted by color, especially for the semi-precious stuff, because I have a lot more of that. So to get started, I'm going to lay out the beads in the way that I think I want them to go. But first I gotta open this last one. I'm gonna lay out the beads in the way that I think I want them to go, which is I want to have the big one in the middle, and then I want to have a medium one in the middle like this, and another medium one here, and then I want the small ones to do most of the work. So they're going to be the rest of the bracelet. And when you're setting it on the bead board, it makes it easier to string it if you can have all the holes lined up. But if you can't, don't worry about it. It's not going to be a huge setback for you if you can't do it. So this is how I want to set mine up. Now, if you're going to do yours like a charm bracelet, this bead board is going to be very useful for you as well, because you can see like how everything is set up and how everything looks. So can y'all see this? I want to make sure it's not like a glare. Hold on, let me check the chat real quick, because I see somebody said something. I want to make sure y'all aren't telling me something that I need to adjust. All right, good. So y'all can see it. All right, good. Okay. All right, so this is what my bead board looks like. And then, so I think I'm gonna add a little bit more of the small beads. And I typically wear mine every day. And honestly, the reason I got into more semi-precious and like beads with metaphysical characteristics, I don't know why I keep wanting to say policies or qualities, is because when I started making my statement jewelry, I used to be so scared of it turning. And so these beads, I don't have to worry about that. And they're just as inexpensive as the other kind. And so I don't really have to be too concerned about my jewelry turning. Now, if you're making something like with these plates like this, I'd recommend getting like some clear nail polish, or there's like a spray now. I'm old school because I only remember the clear nail polish, but you could take like some clear nail polish and do like a really, really, really thin coat over this to make sure that it doesn't turn. And I still do that for some of my findings, like this little thing here. I'll still paint those in, I'll still paint those with clear polish. So to get started stringing them, I just want to make sure I didn't put too much. Okay. All right, I think I have enough. Okay, and I also want to add a little charm. I want to add this mustard seed charm. I got this from an Etsy shop, and if y'all are interested, I'll post a link in the group a little bit later. And so I want to add this. Can y'all see this? And it's just an ode to, I'm making this bracelet and also my next bracelet as a tribute to my late friend Demi. She passed away on Thursday, and so I've been looking for ways to honor her. I've actually lost quite a few friends over the past 2 years, and I've honored all of them in different ways. But with Demi, I just wanted to have like something with me because she was the friend that lived closest to me, so I saw her the most. So I want to make something to honor her so that I can always remember her. And she used to always tell me, if you just have faith, anything is possible. So I already had these mustard seed charms because I make waist beads, and people love them. People love the mustard seed on their waist beads because some people use it for like weight loss and stuff. And so I had them already. I got them from an Etsy shop like 6 months ago. I just stocked up because I was scared other people would find her and then she would run out. So yeah, I got a few of those from her and some other charms as well. She shipped fast. The customer service was great. I can't really speak for how it would be now during the holidays. I think everyone's shop is pretty swamped now. But I can recommend, I can post a link to the shop in the comments once I post this to my YouTube so y'all can know where I got it from. But essentially you can just string it along. And now usually what I would do is I would just like string it straight through on the board, but my hands are shaking and I know it's gonna take a longer time to try to do it that way than if I just picked it up one by one. So normally I would just still have the beads laying down and then I can just string it through, but today I'm just trying to make adjustments so that we can just get through the project. So one of the things you can do to make yours a little bit more like blingy, you can add some like spacer beads, something like this, which I love these. And I got these from Michael's. Now they came in on a strand with other stuff, but I do think they come on a string by themselves. So if you wanted to add like some bling or something, you can add that as a spacer bead. And if you're one of those people who likes a lot of flash, I used to be that way, but I've kind of slowed down a bit on my bling. It's weird because it's like the more successful I became, the less flashy I became. But when I was like broke, I wanted all the rich people stuff. I wanted everything that made people think that I was rich. All right, so this is what mine looks like. And I added the mustard seed bead at the end, but you could have added it pretty much at any place if you wanted to, but it's gonna fall here on my wrist. And so I wanted it to be something that I can kind of turn and look at and be more intentional. So that's why I decided to add it at the end. But this is what mine looks like. Well, this is really pretty. It looks like there's an actual eye in there, which is probably why it's called tiger eye. And so to tie it, what I do, I have my bead stopper on this end, and then I'm going to tie it the same way that you would tie your shoes, or similar to how you start the loop to tie your shoes. So I'm going to tie it once over the bead, and so it has this little, it's a pre-knot, and then the next time I'm going to pull it a little bit tighter so that it's not loose. And my bead stopper came off. Hold on. I told y'all my hands are shaking. This is like, it's more difficult to do if you're shaking and you're sweaty. So you might want to add to your supplies to keep a paper towel or a towel near. And I try not to use lotion or anything when I know I'm about to make a project with jewelry, because my hands need to be dry. So if my hands are a little bit ashy, don't judge me. This is on purpose because I can't have my hands slipping. So I just start the knot. I'm just gonna tie a knot. So I'm gonna tie it once over and then once again the opposite way. But before I start the knot the opposite way, I'm gonna pull it tight, and then I'm gonna tie it. I'm gonna finish off the knot. So I'll pull it tight, and over time it's going to get loose. That's pretty inevitable, but if the tighter you pull it, the longer it's gonna last, and you know, it's gonna get looser over time. So as long as you pull it tight to begin with, then it becomes, you know, it lasts a little bit longer. So this is what it looks like now with the mustard seed bead at the end. And then this is what I wanted, like the middle one to be large, and then to have like this little pattern of the little ones leading up to the big one. And then on the other side, it has the mustard seed charm. And so this is the basic style. And then after you tie that one knot, pull it tight some more, and then you're gonna tie it one more time. Now this direction doesn't really matter. It can be the same direction as the previous knot. It can be a different direction, but you wanna pull it as tight as possible so you can make the knot smaller, and that's going to make the game of hiding the knot a little bit easier. And so here, I mean, it's not super easy to see, but this is, I'm gonna try to show y'all the knot. It's really small, and I realize this is translucent string, so you probably can't see it. I probably should have gotten like colored string or something, but I didn't. I haven't gone out today. It's too cold here, so I didn't want to go out today. So now once it's done, you want to take your tails, and yeah, so Tasha, next time I will go and I'll show y'all how I put the bead stopper on. And how do you determine how many beads to use on a bracelet? So Norlisha, what I'll do is once I measure out the bracelet for the length, like this isn't the actual string, but once I measure out the string, then I'll just lay it down just to make sure, and then that'll give me an idea of how many beads I want to use, and just to make sure that I'm using enough. But it really just depends on your personal preference. Some people like to use mostly beads like this. Some people will use spacers, and spacers are beads like this thing. They're beads like, and I have a whole little bead storage thing with spacers. So I'll show y'all what some people use, and like I said, it's really your personal preference. So I showed y'all the diamond ones, and I have the sniffles because I'm getting over a cold, so I'm sorry. So you can use the diamond ones, which they're not really diamonds, but y'all know what I'm talking about. You can use the diamond ones, you can use little ones like this. So it's really about your preference, but the more spacers you use, the less beads you'll need. And so that's why having this board is important, especially if you're doing like a pattern, because having the board will be able to give you an idea so that you can make sure that your pattern is even. So you can even use larger spacers like this one, but it really just depends. So once you decide what kind of bracelet you'll make, and sometimes because I craft to get my stress away, and so sometimes I don't always know exactly what I'm going to make. So, but I do know my wrist size. So I'll typically just cut my measurement, lay out my beads, and then that'll be it. All right, and so this is what it will look like when you're done. Hope y'all can see that. So this is what it will look like when you're done. And then this is what it looks like on my wrist. I like mine to be a little bit tighter, and you see here it's like a little reminder. So I like mine to be a little bit tighter on my wrist. Some people like theirs to fit looser, but this is how much space I have. And it has a little charm on the bottom, and this is what it looks like up close. So this is just a basic bracelet. So if you want to make something like one of these, which obviously y'all can tell I love tiger eye. If you want to make something like this one or this one, now we are going to make these, and you'll use the same technique, except what you'll do is you'll have to take into account the size of your focal bead, because for example, my wrist, I know I'm gonna make it either 7 or 7.5, but if my bead is like this, which is what I'm gonna use, and yes, I got it on sale at Michael's, I'm very proud of that. So this is the one that I'm going to use. So that means that I no longer need to make sure that my string is 7 inches anymore, because this is going to take up some of my space. And so if you want, you can use like a measuring tape just to see how wide it is. This one is about 1.5 inches. So that means I can make my string at least 1 inch shorter than I normally would make it. And so, especially since this one is pretty heavy, I'm gonna go ahead and use the 7mm size again. And then I'm also going to use these semi-precious beads, and these are white howlite in the 8mm size. All right, so that's the size that I'm going to use, and then I'm gonna put this on it. And I think I actually want to use a few spacer beads, so I'm gonna use some of those just to add some bling to it. Demi, I think Demi would really like that. So I'm gonna add a few bling spacer beads, some silver one. I like this color more. All right, so I have 2 of these. And by the way, jewelry organization has saved me so much time for so many projects. I have most of mine sorted by color, And well, first by type, so like these are beads and charms in here. And then I have like this larger one. And this is all, you can probably see it better from the bottom. This is all like chip beads of semi-precious beads. And then I have another one of just like larger bead sizes. But having my beads organized like this. And then I also have a carrying case, which has also saved me a lot of space. So if you're crafting with limited space, I definitely recommend that you have everything organized, so that, because it makes it a whole lot easier. So I just thought about it. I want to have some bling spacer beads. So I'm going to use something different from what I originally planned. So I'm going to use these two bling spacer beads that I have, just to add a little something extra. So to make this is when you're going to need your your crimp beads, and they look like this. So mine actually came in a findings kit from Michael's. I don't have the top part of it, but it came in like a findings kit that included earrings. It looked a little bit something like this, but it came in like a little findings kit. And it had like the earrings and the chip and a couple other things, but I don't really make earrings like this. I don't really wear earrings like this. But the crimp beads is what caught my eye. And all right, so you're gonna need 2 crimp beads for this. And you're also going to need this jewelry tool as well as the round one. So you're going to use this to shape it, and you're going to use this to flatten it. I'm going to move these out of my way. All right, so to get started, again, you can measure your wrist, or you can just measure it out if you're making it for someone else. But I'm just going to measure my wrist. This is a little bit easier for me. Keeps it less stressful. So to add my bead stopper, what you do is you take the two ends here and you grip it, and then you open up the bead stopper, and then you just insert your string. Now I like to leave a little tail here because that gives me more space when it's time to tie it. But for this one, we're gonna start off a little bit differently, and I need to actually take this out of the package. So hold on one second. So for this one, you're gonna start off a little bit different because you're gonna end a little bit different because you don't need to tie it this time, because the ends are both going to be attached to the circle that are on this plate. So one end is going to be here, another end is going to be here, and I realize that is upside down. So one end is going to be here, the other end is going to be here. So for this project, you don't need to tie it. The crimp beads are going to do the work for you. And so what you're going to do with this one is you're going to take your string, you're going to take your crimp bead, and you're essentially going to make a sandwich with your plate. So you're going to start by putting the crimp bead on, and also the size of your crimp bead will also have an impact on what size string you can use. So if you have a smaller size crimp bead, then you cannot use certain sizes of string, because you're going to need your string to be able to fit through the crimp bead twice. So I have the crimp bead on here, and I tried to use like a color that can stand out, but I understand it's a really, really small bead. So essentially you're gonna put this crimp bead on, and then you're gonna take the plate, put the string through the first hole of the plate, and then you're gonna string it through, and then you're gonna put it through your crimp bead one more time. And I have to pull it back so I can see. All right, so And it takes a high level of concentration. And for some reason, my hands won't stop shaking today. I don't know why. Probably because I haven't made jewelry in a while. And I really want to get this right for y'all. I've never been so nervous for teaching a class before. All right, hold on. I'm thinking of that Eminem songs, like his palms are sweaty. I can't get it through. Hold on. And this is why I say like your string size and your crimp bead size will matter, because you need to make sure that your crimp bead, that your string can go through your crimp bead twice. I had it and it fell out. Hold on. Let me dry my hands and come back here, buddy. Okay, so you want to string your crimp bead through. And it's also, the heat is on, it's hot in here. All right. No. That was my daughter. She wants to know if I'm done with my class. All right, I got it through, but now I gotta pull the other end through. All right, there we go. Let me grab this so I can pull it. I can't grip it with my nails. All right, there we go. So now you have, it should look like this, where you have the crimp bead here. This little indentation is the crimp bead, in case y'all can't tell. And then you want to adjust it so you can pull it on one side, kind of the same way you would do a drawstring, but just make sure you don't pull the crimp bead back off. So if you've ended up with like a longer tail on this side than what you're comfortable with, then just make adjustments the same way that you would adjust a drawstring. And then once you get it to the length that you want, and then you can double check on your wrist just to make sure, and mine's going to be a little bit longer. Double check on your wrist to make sure that it's still going to fit. And then you'll take this tool, the flatter one, and then you're going to use that to flatten your crimp bead. So put the crimp bead in between this space here, and then you're going to just flatten it. So push it as close to the edge as possible. And then also another thing, I'm using a gold one just because I wanted y'all to be able to see, and I thought it would be easier to show gold than silver, but you want to coordinate the color of the crimp bead to whatever colors you're using for your bracelet. So this one is gold, but typically I would make it match. Now you could also use like a crimp bead cover, but I didn't want to do all that. So I have some, and they look, I actually see one now. So let me show y'all what it looks like. If you want to do this extra step, you can. I didn't include it in the supplies because I don't really think it makes like a huge difference for all the extra work that it entails. But if you have the crimp bead cover, then your color of your bead won't matter, but it looks like this. And then you would just put your bead in between that little ball and just cover it up that way, so they won't be able to see the crimp bead anyway. But again, this is just totally up to you. So once you have this part set up, then you can do the same thing we did before and just string your beads on. And you would just start by making sure that your first bead covers this section too. So I'm going to use my white Howlite 8mm size beads. And I don't know if y'all can see these, but they actually have like a little marble effect to them. So I like these, so I'm going to use them. And then you just string them on your board the same way that we did before, except this time you'll probably use, not probably, you will use less beads because you have less space. So for this, I want to have it where I have this section, and then I'm gonna do a white bead and then the bling, and then I'll do the white beads again, and then I want to do the same thing on this side. So I'm gonna do the howlite beads to start, but then the second bead is going to be my spacer bead, like this. And then on the other side, I'm gonna put the other spacer bead. So that's the way that I'm going to do this. Now, this is also the point where if you were going to add different charms, this is where you would lay those out just to make sure that it looks balanced and that it makes sense. And if you need to make any adjustments, you would do that at this point. Now, I have all my different charms set up in different bins according to their color, or their yeah, mostly according to their color. So that's another tip for making sure, and I started to organize mine because because I realized I have a whole lot of the same charms. I would see something which should tell me that at least my style is consistent and my taste is consistent, but I was starting to buy a lot of the same charms. So it was just helpful for me to organize mine. So now for this one, you're just gonna string it on. And again, my hands are shaking, so I'm just gonna pick them up one by one to string them. But normally I would just thread them through the string. I don't know why I'm so nervous today. And so to start, like I said, you wanna cover your tail string with the first bead. So you're gonna insert it into the hole of the first bead, so you don't have that tail. If it can't fit, then you can go ahead and trim it, but you want to make sure that you insert that tail into the first bead. And the tighter you're able to pull this little loop part, then the better it will look. So for mine, I'm gonna string the spacer bead, and then I'll string the rest of them on. Now you could add more spacer beads at this point too. Like I could add something like this and then just space it out so that I use even less beads. I do that for my more expensive beads. I'll use more spacer beads just to keep my cost down, because my bracelets start at $25. And if I'm trying to stay competitive, then I'll use spacer beads so that the cost of production for me stays low. So if you're thinking about selling these, that's a great tip for keeping your production costs low. I did a class called Pricing for Profits, where someone asked, how do you compete with people who are priced way lower than you? And one of the things you can do is you can just make it so that yours costs less to make. All right, so now that I've strung these on, the next thing that I'm going to do is finish it off. And this actually looks really small. Hold on. All right. Oh, my wrist is actually this small. Just kidding. I didn't realize my wrist was that small. So just to make myself feel better, I'm going to add 2 more beads, just because I feel like this looks like a child's bracelet. All right, so I'm gonna add 2 more, and my spacer bead again, and then my white bead. All right, so this is what my string looks like. I'll flip it over so y'all can see before I finish it off. This is what it looks like for using the plate. So now for this time, you don't have to worry about tying it, because to finish it off, we're gonna repeat the first step, which is we're gonna make the plate sandwich with the crimp beads. So once you get to the point where your beads are strung to your satisfaction, and usually my size is about 7 inches. So this is almost 5 inches just for the string, because this is about 1 3/4 inches. So the plate is 1 3/4 inches, and now the string that I'm gonna have is like 5 1/2 or is it 4 3/4? Yeah, so it's 4 3/4 now. So I essentially took off almost as much as the plate, as the length of the plate. And then I'm gonna take my crimp bead again. I'm gonna make sure it has a big opening this time. So you're gonna take your crimp bead again, and you're going to put it on the string again. And what I'm going to do to make it easier for myself, because sometimes depending on the size of your bead hole, your crimp bead will slip into it. And so I'm not gonna slide the crimp bead all the way down. I'm going to keep it up a little higher and then string it through. Make sure that you're keeping it straight and you're not twisting it, because you don't want to have a bracelet that doesn't lay flat and stay flat. So I'm gonna put this through, and then I'm gonna thread it through my crimp bead again. If you find yourself having trouble with making it fit, usually if you stretch out the string some, that makes it a little bit flatter and easier to thread the string through the second time. So let me see. And if you're like me and you spend a whole lot of time on the computer, you may want to add like a little lamp to your work area so you can keep it bright, and it'll make it easier to see these little details. Because it can be relaxing, but it can get frustrating real quick if you can't really see what's going on. And so once I have it through, just kidding, almost the little engine that could. This one has a little extra. This crimp bead is actually defective, so I'm gonna use a different one. It has a little extra piece on the top, which is making the, I thought it would make the hole bigger, but it's actually making it smaller. All right, so I'm gonna get a different crimp bead, and don't be afraid to make adjustments. And remember that when you create a new variation, it's not a mistake. It's just something that is unique, and you won't be able to find it anywhere else. So do the same thing, and you see this was much easier. So that's why I said, like, the size of your crimp bead matters. Get the ones with the larger hole if you want to make bracelets for adults, because for adults I wouldn't recommend using a size smaller than 0.7. It just makes the bracelet feel more secure. The 0.5 is thinner, and I use that for things like waist beads and barefoot sandals, just because the beads for those have to be small. Like, I use seed beads for those, so I have to use that size because the beads are so small. All right, so I threaded it through. I'm gonna, every time I say it, I mess up. All right, so I'm gonna use this little tool to pull it. All right, so I'm gonna use this to pull it through, and I'm gonna use it just like a drawstring to adjust it. So pull it tight. Now for this, you wanna pull it really tight, just like we did the other one, but it's much easier to pull tight this time because you don't really have to worry about the beads coming off, or you don't have to worry about them coming off of the bead stopper. So you wanna pull them tight so that the bracelet is secure, like this. Well, this is so pretty. So you want to pull it tight so your bracelet is secure. And then once it is, and you don't have to put it on like me, don't be like me. Once it is secure and you're sure that it's the length that you want, then you're gonna pull it tight, and then you're gonna take your crimper, this little alligator thing, and then you're going to flatten your crimp bead, and try to keep the crimp bead in the little loop here as small as possible. Just try to pull it as close as possible to the edge, and then you're gonna take your crimp tool and then just pull it down like that until it's flat, and then that's it. And then you'll take your clippers and clip it. Now you can clip it as long or as short as you want. Just know that if you clip it on the longer end, you're gonna have to hide more string. And so to hide it on this side, you're just gonna pull it tight and then tuck it in. So I just pulled it out. You see the tail here, or if you can see the tail. Can y'all see this tail? It's like probably futile since the string is clear, but you're just gonna pull it where the tail is and then just gently tuck it in. And then that's it. And this is what it looks like. So if y'all can see, I feel like, is it a glare for y'all or is it just a glare for me? Maybe because of the angle that I'm looking at it. But this is what it looks like if you want to do one with a plate. So far we've done the plate one, and we've done one with the single charm. So the next thing that I wanted to show y'all is how you can do one with several different charms. And this is one of the ones that I made like that. It has like a nautical theme, and I made it to be like a stackable bracelet set, which included this bracelet too that I got from Michael. So it was like a nautical theme, and I used the bits and baubles actually. So these aren't traditional jewelry charms. They typically have a larger hole, and these were the bits and baubles set that I got from Michael's. So it included the beach ball, the sandals, the anchor, and this is a pair of like Wayfarer style sunglasses. So you have this, and essentially to make it like this, you would follow the same steps that we've been following. The only difference is you're going to add in more charms. And so for mine, I want to customize a bracelet for someone for Christmas. And so I'm going to use different charms that I think represent this person. And so I have this passport charm that I want to use. And then for this project, it depends on the charms that you use, because if the charms come with the extra jump ring, then you don't need to buy any. This is a jump ring, this thing right here. And it essentially attaches the charm to the end point, which this one actually has lobster clasp. But if you want to use something like this, and for one reason or another it doesn't have a jump ring on it, then you would actually need to just go buy some. The good news is they're really inexpensive, and they can come in a pack as large as this, which I got from Hobby Lobby. And these are all coated, 14 karat gold plated, I think it says. And so I'm going to use the passport charm, and I want to use a few more. So I want to use this cross charm, and it's totally up to y'all what charms you want to use. And so I'm going to do mine with lava beads, these black lava beads. And again, I like the ones with metaphysical properties. So I'm going to use lava beads and a mixture of glass beads, of black glass beads. Some of these are actually onyx, but when I was organizing my beads, I did not realize it until I mixed all of them up that that's what I had done. And so I kind of messed up that way. So I know some of them in there are lava beads or onyx beads, but I don't know which one. So that's why I'm not going to sell that one. This one, I'm just going to give it as a gift. And I'll just tell her, usually when I give jewelry away as a gift, I'll give a description as well of what it is and what kind of properties the stones will have. So for this one, I'm actually going to use some spacer beads. I'm going to use the hematite spacer beads. I really like them because they don't turn. I got them from Joann's, and I literally put them for so many different things, and I use them in so many different ways, and they do not turn. I've used them for my waist beads, and I've worn them for years. I've used them for my cross beads, which I've been making for about 4 years, and they've never turned. And I'm talking, I've never painted it with nail polish or anything. It's just never turned. And so I love to use these just because I know that they're not going to turn. And I don't know if and this is what they came in. So it was the Hildy and Joe brand, and it says natural hematite stone. They changed the packaging a little bit, but it's the same thing. And then it looks like this on the bracelet. And so I really, really, really like that stone. And so I'm going to make a charm bracelet for my girlfriend. And I want to use this Florida charm. I've had it for a while. I got the charm from Hobby Lobby. And I just got an idea for another charm, but I don't know where I stored it. So let me check this one last place. Ham's a hand. All right. I had another charm in mind. It was a globe, but I don't know where I put it. And I don't remember what color it is, so I can't really find it quickly. So we'll just make one with this, and I just wanted to show y'all how to use spacer beads and how to make an actual charm bracelet, so that you'll have a better idea. Now I was gonna use these shells that were originally for hair. These, I forget what these are called, but these shells, I know they used to be currency for some places. But I'll save that for another project. So I'm gonna make hers with black because she loves black and she's always wearing black. And so for her, she's an average sized woman. So I'm gonna make hers about just kidding. I'm gonna make hers about 7.5 inches. So I'll just take my measuring tape, measure it out. This is about her wrist size. Measure it out, and then for her, I'm going to make the lava beads the center, and then I'm gonna do the black beads on the outside. Now you could just have this as your bracelet, and this is a very popular style of making jewelry, where you just have the plain ones on the outside and then you have the focal beads in between. So you could just make the bracelet like this and then you'd be okay. But I want to add something else. So to use this one, I need to remove the lobster clasp from it. And so to do that, I'm gonna take my round jewelry tool, and this one, the crimper, and I'm gonna open it up just wide enough to remove the lobster clasp, and then I'm just gonna close it back. So I'm gonna take the flat one. Now you could do this either way. You could hold it with the flat one and close it with the round one, or you can hold it with the round one and close it with the crimper. It's up to you. But this is the end goal. You want to take the lobster clasp off, and then since this cross does not have a charm on it, it does not have a jump ring on it, then that means I need to add one. So to do that, you do the opposite of what you did before. You're gonna open it up. So I'm gonna hold it with the round one, open it with the crimper, add my cross bead here. Sometimes for beads like this, sometimes I like to add 2. just to make sure that it dangles. So now that it's open, I'm actually gonna switch it out. I'm gonna use the round one to close it. Now for me, I'll typically close it a little bit past the closing, and then I'll use the crimper to flatten it. So like this goes a little bit past. I don't know if y'all can see that, but it goes a little bit past, and this is how I do it to make sure that they don't come apart and that the charms don't come off. This is the best way that I do it. I know that there's other ways to do it, but for me, that's the best way that I found to close it, especially for little, really small charms, to make sure that it's closed and that the charm doesn't fall off. Because I'll be honest, when I first started, I was making stuff for my family and friends, and they'd be like, oh my gosh, my charm came off. And I'm like, all right, you gotta throw it away. I don't know what else to tell you. So I had to find a way to close it so that it doesn't come off. All right, so I'm gonna add the passport one here. And then I need to do the same thing for the Florida one. I need to take this off. I had this one I was gonna make it as a keychain at first, but I said, nah, I wanna do something different. And I got this one from Hobby Lobby. They had like a whole bunch of states. So I'm just gonna open it up like I did before, and then close it up like I did before. So you can hold it with one, you can hold it with your hands. It's really your personal preference. This way is easier for me if I just hold it with my hand, but I just wanted to show y'all different ways that you can close it up. So I'll add it here. Now, how many charms you choose to use is also a matter of your personal preference. So, and also if you're making it for a client, obviously you want to make exactly what they want you to make. And so I'll take the string that I measured, and for this one, you're actually going to use the bead stopper again. So take the bead stopper, open it up. Oh, just kidding. Take the bead stopper, open it up. Okay. Open it up, put your string in between it, and just to give yourself some extra security, you want to pull the string to the back if you want. I keep mine in the front because I know I'm not particularly rough with mine, but if you're a beginner, you may want to pull yours back a little bit more. But it helps to keep in mind the reason you're using something like this is to keep the beads from coming off. And so if you keep that in mind, then it makes it a little bit easier. So for this bracelet, I'm going to add a Hamza hand. And I got this from Hobby Lobby as well. And I'm just going to space it out. All right, so I'm going to add some spacers. You know what? I'm going to add the black bead first. And then I'll add the spacers. I almost forgot to use the spacer beads. All right, so, and it just adds that extra little level of flair when you have, especially like something with a bling effect, like these hematite ones. When you stretch it out, it kind of just adds that extra little feminine touch. But men tend to like these too. So the types of men that like these bracelets, I used to think that men would be so afraid of having like bling or something, but it's usually the men, they like theirs to be more muted. So most of the requests for men's bracelets are like all black. They want them to be like all black with like a little bit of bling. Or they want like blacked out bling. So something that's muted. But yeah, so I'll string these along, add the lava stones. Now the lava beads, sometimes they're a little bit confusing because they have holes in them all over. So sometimes finding the actual hole can be difficult. And I'm going to shorten it. I'm not going to use 3. I'm not going to use 4. I'm going to use 3. because her wrist is not that big. So I'm gonna add the spacer. I'm actually going to, hold on. I want to add the spacers in the back. So I'm gonna take the ones in the back off so I can add the spacers. Because I thought I would like it without them, but I don't. All right. So I'll just leave this on, and the lava beads are going to be the center of the bracelet. And so what I'll typically do is leave a little hole of just this much. I don't know how much this size is, but just enough for you to pull it and tie it and clip it. So you just want to leave that much at the end. And then I'll string the rest of them on. And she is, the person I'm making this for, she travels. She's from Florida. And she loves Jesus. So it seems like really basic, but you would be surprised at how much people love thoughtful things like this that have something. I think that's why the Pandora store is so huge, because people like when they can have something that's super personal and, you know, one of a kind. All right, so last bit of beads and the passport. I can't know if that's alarm is outside or if it's my daughter on my phone. I can't tell. So if y'all hear a car alarm, oh, that was here. Sounds like somebody turned it off. All right, so this is what the charms look like. This is gonna be so cute. All right, and then I'll add the last few. And then that's it. And then we'll tie it. Now, sometimes when I tie it, it depends on my mood. Sometimes I'll burn it to tie it, and sometimes I will add E6000 to tie it, or to the tie, and sometimes I'll just leave it alone. It really just depends. So again, to tie, we're going to do the loop over, pull it really tight, and then I'm gonna loop it again the opposite way, pull it really tight again, and then I can take this off at this point since I know it's not gonna come off. Oh, just kidding. And then gonna tie it one more time. I don't know if y'all can see, but essentially it's just like tying knots, and then you're just pulling it before we play a game of hide the beads. So we're gonna trim this. I'm gonna trim off the tails. And since neither one of these beads are super small, they have super small holes, so you could burn the ends with the lighter just to make sure, just to give yourself that added level of security. Now me, this is too close to call, so I'm not gonna try to burn it. Now I would also add, and this is something I didn't put in the supplies, but I thought you all might want that option. You can just add a little dab of E6000, and then the bead really just slides right over the knot, so then you can hide it. So, and this ends up being smaller than I thought it would be, but that's okay. All right, so her bracelet has the passport, the Florida, the ham's a hand, and the cross, which is 14 karat gold plated. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Josie, I didn't see you. Okay, so Tasha says on the first one, how do I get the knot? How do I keep the knot from slipping out? When you stretch the bracelet, the knot slips. So for you, you may want, if you're pulling it and like the knot is coming out, hold on. If you're pulling it and the knot is coming out, then you could put some E6000 on it, and then put E6000 here on the knot. I'm trying to get to it, but it's tight. So you put a little, like not even the size of a dime, like a really small piece of E6, a little small dab of E6000, and then insert it and then pull it into the bead, and then that's how it's going to stay. So that's how you make sure that it doesn't come out. So far tonight, we've learned techniques for 3 different ways for making bead bracelets. So you have this way, which is with the plate, and then we actually started with this one. So I'll go in order. So we started with this one with the basic technique of just stringing the beads, tying it, and then you can add like a little embellishment, which I added this mustard seed bead on the back. So this is with tiger eye beads. And then the second technique that we learned was with the plate. And then for this one, you don't have to you don't have to tie it. It just has the plate in the middle and then the beads all around. This is also an option where you can add charms as well. And then the third one that we learned was actually with charms. So you can add the charms any way that you want, in any order that you want to add them. It's totally something that you can customize yourself. But this one is just really custom to the person that I made it for. She's a Christian, she travels, she's from Florida. And then if you know what the ham's a ham means, then just kidding. All right, so that's it for the charm one. And so if you wanted to make something like this, you would use a similar technique with that we used for creating this one, except all you have to do is just attach the 2 ends to that piece. So I want to show y'all this one really quickly, because I just saw that I already have extra supplies. So to make this one, this is actually the easiest one to do, and this is only if you want to make it as a set, like as a stackable bracelet set, which is really trendy right now to use stackable bracelets. So I just want to show y'all real quick how you attach it, because for this one, it pretty much comes ready for you to attach it to something. And so all you'll need is just a bead that has 2 ends on it like this. And yes, I got this on sale too. Craft store CEOs are already rich. They don't need me to pay full price to make them feel good. All right, so take this one out, and then essentially it already has the ends on it. You may, depending on the size of it, you may need to add a jump ring, but in many cases you don't have to. But let me just check this one to see. But yeah, so for this one, all you need to do is open up the lobster clasp. You open up the lobster clasp, clip it onto your bead, and then do the same thing on the other end. Open the lobster clasp, clip it onto your bead, and then that's it. That's a whole bracelet just then, like literally 5 seconds, and then that's it. So if you wanted to do like a stackable set with like a leather band and then some charms and then a plate, and then Michael's also has these, I think they're called quartz bracelets. So if you wanted to do something like that, and then add the quartz bracelet, and then add the charm bracelet, and the leather band, this will give you an idea of like how you can stack it so that you get like a unique look in something that you wouldn't necessarily find inside of any other store. And you will never have to worry about somebody giving the same gift as you, or them being able to find it in the store, which works. It works both ways, because I've had people to say like, oh, where'd you get this? I lost it, or somebody stole it or something, and then they're not able to get it again. So it makes them take better care of it too. So hold on. All right, so if you wanted to do like a stackable set like this, then, you know, you can have your bead bracelet in the middle, your leather band, and your quartz bracelet. So, and if you see, if you notice that it wrinkles up a little bit, you can just add jump rings on either end, but that's it. And then this is my favorite stacked set that I've made. It's the crosses, and I'll typically wear it with the tiger eye. Now this I've had for years, so it's kind of stretched out, but this is what this set looks like. So hold on. This is what this set looks like. And I love it. It's one of my favorites. I wear it the most often, so if you ever see me out, I'm probably going to be wearing this set or something with my jade, which I love these. My aunt, who is an AKA, she bought me this charm to try to get me to pledge. But I never did, but I still kept the charm because I love it. It's like a frog with pearls. So I just made a bracelet with it, and I use, if I know I'm gonna see her, I'll wear it just as a way to show her that I appreciate her. But that's, you can make it like this. Of course, we have this bracelet, and then this is the one that we made tonight. But these are all the different options, so you can make it your own. You can make it work for you. I literally love making jewelry. It's one of my favorite things to do. If I'm super stressed, I'll just make a bracelet. I'll make a bracelet and I almost always feel better. So these are all the different types of options. This is made with chip beads that I got from Michael's. Most of these supplies I got from a craft store. But yeah, these are all the different options. So if y'all have any questions or comments or anything, just let me know. Once the video processes, I'm gonna post it to my YouTube channel at Rickeysha Craftinista. I wanna invite all y'all, if you're not already members, to join my Facebook group called Crafters Plus Creators. And yeah, so this is it for the tutorial, but I wanna thank all of y'all for joining me. Oh wait, this is crooked. I wanna thank all of y'all for joining me. And next Sunday, I'm not sure what we're going to make. So if y'all have recommendations or something that you've been dying to learn how to make, just let me know and I'll add it to my list of things. And yeah, so I haven't decided what we're going to make next week, but if y'all have recommendations, just let me know. But this is what we made today. All right, so thank y'all for joining me, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. I could probably wear all these at the same time. Does this look crazy? All right, so good night, y'all. Bye.